On July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the Masters of the Wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher program on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM, presented by Teresa and David on behalf of Share International New Zealand.
Today we'll be reading two articles written by Benjamin Creme on the subject of initiation, explaining what it is and the requirements. The first is sourced from the April 1982 edition of Share International magazine, titled The Gospel Story and the Path of Initiation. It begins.
The evolutionary journey on which we are engaged is marked off by 5 major points of crisis, major expansions of consciousness, the 5 steps to liberation and mastery. These are the 5 planetary initiations which free us from further incarnational experience on this earth.
All of the masters have taken these 5 initiations. Some have taken further, higher initiations, and their presence in this world is the result of a conscious decision to serve the plan of evolution, and not from any need, through personal karma, to incarnate.
The esoteric process we call initiation is an artificial forcing process introduced into our planet in mid-Atlantean times to speed up the evolutionary process. Without it, we would inevitably arrive at the same point of development as we evidence today, but it would take millions of years longer to do so.
In those far-off days, a crisis occurred in another part of this solar system which required the presence of some of the most advanced members of the hierarchy of our own planet, who at that time were from Venus. The process of initiation was introduced, therefore, to enable the most advanced members of Earth's evolution to undergo this forcing process, and so equip them to take over the lower posts in the hierarchy, thus releasing the senior masters for other work.
The highest initiation possible for an Earth man at that time was the 3rd initiation, and among the first group to reach that achievement were the Christ and the Buddha, who have remained at the forefront of our evolution to this day.
Seen from the esoteric standpoint, the Gospel story is really the story of initiation, a story presented to humanity again and again in different ways long before Christianity. The account of the life of Jesus is the symbolic presentation, dramatically reenacted for us, of the initiate's journey to perfection.
The first initiation is called the birth of the Christ, and is symbolized by the birth of the disciple Jesus at Bethlehem. When the evolutionary energy, which we call the Christ principle or consciousness, is awakened in the human heart, the spiritual heart center at the right side of the chest, the man or woman becomes ready for preparation to take the first initiation. It is important to realize that the person is already an initiate before he or she stands before the initiator.
The human soul, the first master, brings its vehicle to the point of initiation through its life experience and meditation. Then the master of the hierarchy steps in, and by a combination of stimulus, testing, and presented service opportunity, prepares the candidate to come before the Hierophant to receive the impact of the energy from the rod of initiation which he wields. The Christ Maitreya is the Hierophant at the 1st and 2nd initiations, the 3rd and higher initiations being taken before the Lord of the World, Sanat Kumara at Shambhala.
I am the way. No man can know the Father except through me. These sayings of the Christ are esoterically true, but they have been interpreted by the churches quite wrongly to mean that Christianity, or more correctly churchianity, is the only religious path, that only if a man accepts the man-made dogmas and doctrines of the Christian Church can he know God.
The Christ embodies the Christ principle on this planet. That is, an energy which flows from him to us. It is through the manifestation of this principle that we reorient ourselves and enter the initiatory path. In this sense, he is indeed the way. Likewise, only when one has stood before the Christ at the first two initiations can one open up contact with the monad, the spirit, the Father in heaven, which leads to the third initiation before Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world.
The born-again Christian groups have an inkling of the truth, in that the first initiation is the second birth of the Bible. But, of course, this is an experience shared by millions today throughout the world, and not exclusive to the born-again Christians.
The first initiation demonstrates control over the physical body, in particular over the tiny devic or elemental lives which make up the physical body of man. The second initiation demonstrates control over the astral emotional body, or elemental lives which make up that vehicle. This is called the baptism initiation, and is symbolized for us by the baptism of Jesus at Jordan.
The third, the first true soul initiation, is called the transfiguration, and is symbolized by the transfiguration of Jesus on the Mount. It demonstrates control over the mental, elemental and body, and brings in monadic or spirit contact and energy for the first time, the jewel in the heart of the lotus.
Jesus entered the world at Bethlehem as a third-degree initiate, and so simply symbolized these three stages of growth for us. He had to undergo the fourth initiation, and did so in full physical fact, to dramatize symbolically for our sake the experience of renunciation. In the West, this initiation is known as the crucifixion. In the East, it is called the Great Renunciation, when all is renounced, position, family, even life itself if necessary, for the higher spiritual life.
Then follows, and this is the core of the Christian gospel story, the fifth initiation, the resurrection, symbolized by the resurrection of the body of Jesus after the crucifixion. Each initiation attracts to the bodies of the initiate matter of subatomic particles, literally light. By the fourth initiation, the bodies of the initiate are 3/4 subatomic or light.
This process is completed at the fifth, or resurrection initiation, when the initiate stands free from the pull of matter forever, a perfected master. The evolutionary goal has been achieved, and the master has finished his life experience on this planet. His choice of whether to remain on this earth and so serve the plan of our planetary logos is his alone.
There are higher initiations which call the master to further effort. The ascension, symbolized by the ascension of the Christ after his appearance before the disciples in the resurrected body of Jesus, marks the sixth initiatory experience, and confers cosmic consciousness and total immortality of the body to the ascended master.
Seen in this way, the gospel story holds before humanity the promise of divinity, a divinity realized not alone by one extraordinary man, the Son of God, but a divinity attainable by all who make the necessary effort to expand their consciousness to include the spiritual levels. A divinity achieved too by a scientific process, of which the Christ and the Masters are the custodians, the process of initiation.
This second article by Benjamin Creme appeared in the March 1984 edition of Share International magazine. Its title, The Requirements for Initiation, Creme starts by saying,
I have shown the Gospel story as the presentation to humanity in symbolic form of the esoteric path of initiation. Many people today stand on or at the threshold of that path, yet very little is known about the actual requirements for these great expansions of consciousness which constitute initiation.
It would seem appropriate, therefore, to devote some time to touch on these requirements, remembering always that an article of this kind can do no more than cover, rather superficially, the basic essentials. Initiation is a complex, profoundly esoteric and mysterious subject, and those readers who wish to read more deeply about it are referred to the writings of the Master D.K. through Alice A. Bailey, in particular to Initiation, Human and Solar.
It is important to remember that initiation is a process, not a ceremony, although it does involve ceremony, nor the successful passing of an examination. It is the result of a gradual expansion of consciousness. It is a growing awareness and demonstration of the spiritual realities which lie back of our outer physical plane expression, our higher self or soul, and that of which the soul itself is a reflection, the divine monad or spark of God. It is a process whereby successive and graded stages of unification and at-one-ment take place between the man or woman in incarnation and these higher aspects of our threefold constitution.
There are a great many minor, but 5 major planetary initiations. Each one represents a definite stage of integration and at-one-ment reached by the initiate. The goal is achieved when, at the 5th initiation, the liberated master stands in full at-one-ment with the monad, his Father in heaven. He has expanded his consciousness to include the spiritual planes and needs no further incarnational experience on this planet. For the master, there are higher at-one-ments with the planetary and systemic logi, with which we need not concern ourselves.
Initiation indicates a point achieved, but does not bring about that achievement. Life itself is the field of development of the process. It is the experiences, the trials and failures of everyday life, and the gradual mastering of oneself that brings about the control over matter and the consciousness on all planes that characterizes the initiated master.
Technically, initiation is an artificial, scientific process which speeds up the evolutionary process. Historically, it is very old. It is not obligatory. Individual men can take as long as they like to achieve perfection, but it provides the means whereby those who are ready and willing to make the efforts to undergo the trials and tests, and above all to make the sacrifices and renunciations which initiation demands, can speed the journey of evolution immeasurably, and thus serve more fully in the plan of the Logos.
You're listening to the World Teacher Programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Benjamin Creme continues, the requirements for each initiation have necessarily changed as mankind has evolved. Each new stage reached by humanity as a whole pushes upwards these requirements. Today, from the Master's point of view, the 3rd is the first true soul initiation, the 1st and 2nd being really preparatory, demonstrating the control of the vehicles, physical and astral respectively, of the personality.
Through these purified and integrated bodies, the divine inner man, the soul, makes its presence felt, gripping the vehicles and shining through the personality. When that integration includes the controlled mental body, the third initiation can be experienced.
Synchronicity of vibration is the key to this process. The soul can only manifest itself to any great extent through vehicles of analogous vibration. It is for this reason that so much emphasis has been laid in all teachings on purity of physical body, of feelings, of mind, and of motive. The process of purification rightly starts on the probationary path. By the time the initiatory path is being trodden, the habits of purity are expected to be already established and automatic.
The physical body is the first to undergo purification, and for those in preparation for the first initiation, a vegetarian diet becomes essential. Meat eating has a lowering effect on the vibration of the physical body of man and must be eliminated from the diet. It is interesting to note how many people today, especially the young, are turning to vegetarianism. There is no doubt that this relates to the fact that several millions now stand on the threshold of the first initiation. Consciously or unconsciously, they are responding to the inner precepts of the soul.
Consciousness on a plane is a very different thing from control on that plane, and initiation is the result not only of consciousness but of control. At the first initiation, the control of the soul or ego over the physical body must be well advanced. The desires of the body for eating, drinking, sex, sleep, rest must no longer dominate. That is not to say that the aspirant must no longer eat, drink, sleep, or have sex, but all of these should be in moderation, regulated, and under the control of the soul.
This control is really over the physical elemental. All our bodies, material and spiritual, are made up of the bodies of tiny devic angelic lives, or elementals, the so-called lunar and solar pitris. The lunar pitris form the physical, astral and mental bodies of the lower man, while the solar pitris constitute the body of the soul, the causal body.
The first initiation is called the birth initiation. It is the result of the birth of the Christ consciousness in the cave of the heart, and aspirants who have undergone this experience will have oriented themselves towards the spiritual life, which does not necessarily mean the religious life.
A general rightness of conduct and thinking and an attitude of goodwill will be demonstrated. The character will still have many faults. The ideal is seldom attained, but a new and more comprehensive and inclusive attitude to all beings will be shown, and the desire to serve will be strong.
As a result of the control of the physical elemental, a greater creativeness will manifest itself. This is due to the shift of the energy flow from the lower chakras to the throat center. It is not by accident, therefore, that the culture of any civilization is created by the initiates.
The second initiation demonstrates emotional control of the astral elemental, just as the first demonstrated control of the physical elemental. This initiation is said to be the most difficult. The initiate, enmeshed in the fogs of desire of the astral mists, has to clarify his responses to reality and free himself from emotional bondage.
So powerful is the astral nature of man that this is an enormously difficult task and can take many lives to achieve. The soul, through the agency of the mind, has to control the emotional body and make it limpid and clear for its true purpose, a fitting vehicle for the Buddhic or intuitional level of consciousness.
The fifth principle of mind, working through the mental body, acts as the director and organizer of astral reaction, and thus as the dispeller of glamour. The Master D.K. has written, "The second initiation is a profoundly difficult one to take. For those upon the first or second rays of aspect, It is probably the most difficult of them all.
However, with the advent of the Christ acting as the dispeller of glamour on a world scale, the way forward for the large number of aspirants now approaching this experience will be facilitated, and many, having long ago taken the first initiation, will pass through the portals for a second time during this life.
The second initiation behind him, the initiate has to learn control of his mental vehicle. Just as the fogs of glamour on the astral plane have had to be dissipated, so now the illusions of the mental plane must be dissolved in the light flooding in more and more brightly from the soul.
The third initiation, the Transfiguration, demonstrates the completely integrated personality, soul-infused and responding now to the energy of the monad. Love, wisdom, and dynamic will, the attributes of the soul, now shine clearly through the personality, and a creative life of world service and effectiveness ensues.
These first three major planetary initiations must always be taken in incarnation, on the physical plane. In this way, the initiate's consciousness is demonstrated through both mind and brain.
To conclude this brief and necessarily incomplete account of the requirements for each initiation, I quote again from the writings of the Master D.K. When a man takes the fourth initiation, he functions in the fourth plane vehicle, the Buddhic, and has escaped permanently from the personality ring past not. This great act of renunciation marks the moment when the disciple has nothing in him which relates him to the three worlds, physical, astral, and mental, of human evolution. His contacts with those worlds in the future will be purely voluntary, and for the purpose of service. Source: The Rays and the Initiations, page 696.
The life of the man who takes the fourth initiation, or crucifixion, is usually one of great sacrifice and suffering. It is the life of the man who makes the great renunciation, and even exoterically it is seen to be strenuous, hard and painful. He has laid all, even his perfected personality, upon the altar of sacrifice, and stands bereft of all. All is renounced: friends, money, reputation, character, standing in the world, family, and even life itself. Source: Initiation, Human and Solar, pages 88 to 89.
We'll finish today's programme with an extract from Maitreya's message number 78, as given through Benjamin Creme.
When you see me, you will know that your elder brother has taken this step through love of his brethren. That, my friends, is why I am now among you. But also you have called me. Your cry for help has reached my ears, and gladly do I answer that call. May the coming time bring to you the knowledge of my presence, the sight of my appearance, the sound of my words, and when you see me and hear me, hearken to me. I need all those who long to serve, who wish to fulfill their purpose in life, who see this life as a step on the way and accept the lever of service as the greatest gift.
And that's our program for today. If you have any questions or would like to know more about the World Teacher Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, please call us on 0636461001. That's 0636461001, or visit the website share-international.org, where you'll find more information on the various aspects of the emergence.
To inquire about Share International magazine subscriptions, books by Benjamin Creme, or our monthly free of charge newsletter, which contains extracts from the current Share International magazine, the number is 04234 1133. That number again is 04234 1133, or write to PO Box 9576 Wellington.
Thank you for listening to us on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. And please tune into our next World Teacher program at the end of this month on Saturday the 31st of August at the usual time of 10 a.m.
You can listen again to this program and previous ones by visiting our website at share-international-nz.info and click on the radio tab.